Hello, this is Jean Morgan again. It is December 3rd of 2013, and I am here with Dean Miller and Chuck Waneka, tape number 2. So we left off the last tape, and we were going to discuss the rivalries between, the school rivalries between Lafayette and any other towns around here.
There was only one rivalry, and that was between Lafayette and Louisville. The other teams, Fort Lupton, well, a little bit of a rivalry, Brighton, Adams City, but Louisville was our worst enemy.
Frederick and Fort Lupton is about the same. Adams City and Brighton is about the same.
And we played in what they called the Platte Valley League, so that included those schools.
And what did rivalry mean?
It meant that when you were playing football, you
beat them,
and you were on the line. You grabbed dirt and threw it in the other guy's eyes. That's what it meant, because we never did play on grass. We played on dirt fields, and anything you could do to get an advantage, you did. And I cried over more Lafayette Louisville football games than any kid in high school, because it was heartbreaking to lose to Louisville. You just couldn't do it.
And did you lose much?
We never
did. Did you ever have to play in the goat heads, the stickers? Or was it just dirt?
No, we ignored them, but Louisville never had football until I was a sophomore. No, take it back. When I was a junior, and we beat them real handily, easy. The next year, my senior year, we had a little harder time doing it. Actually, at that time, Lafayette had a pretty good football team. There were only 2 classes in the state, A class and B class. We lost the state championship with Inglewood my freshman year. I never played. I just was out there once in a while. But we got beat 7-6. The next year they came to Lafayette, and we got beat 3-0. I got to play in a couple downs, and that's all. My junior year, I made the first team, and we won the state championship because we played Inglewood a preseason game. It didn't even count, just a practice game. We played them on a Friday, picked up the Sunday paper, and the State Athletic Commission had put Inglewood in Class A. Inglewood won the Class A that year after beating us for 2 years. We won the state my junior year, and my senior year was the most pathetic thing you've ever seen. I was quarterback.
What year did you graduate? What year was
39. I was 38 when we played football. I had never played in the backfield. Only 3 of us were on the state juniors were on the state championship. And when we went out for football the first night, Coach said he was going to have to change us around. The one junior that had been in was moved to center. Tom Pitcher stayed at guard, and I went to be quarterback. Now, I played a whole year at quarterback, but we went to single wing system instead of the old, you have a fullback and a quarterback, and you have a wing back and a blocking back. Normally in any football team, your quarterback is the one that calls the signal. I played blocking back. Wherever that play went, I was supposed to go first. But I called signals, so I was called a quarterback. And that's why we lost the game. I played the whole year, and there was never a play sent in. I was never taken out of a game, only one time, and that was when I was a senior. I was calling signals they'd never heard of over in Brighton. And it was in the third quarter, they took me out of the game, I come to in the shower, never had a headache, a sore spot, or nothing. Have no idea what happened. They dumped me off at home as they came home from Brighton. Nobody ever come down to see if you were alive the next day or nothing. It was a whole different ballgame than it is today. But we got along good as long as I was in school with Louisville. That started not too long after I got out of school, and it got pretty rough. You want to tell a story about Lafayette and Louisville? How we had people on both sides of it. The thing that were just like to bite everybody on it. I mean, it got, and it even got into the faculty. The last time that Lafayette played Louisville under those conditions, we played in Louisville. And I was sitting up in the stands, and Tom Sutek come down for the game, walking in front of the crowd carrying a chair. And he saw me, and come down here, Chuck. Yeah, I got a job for you. And right about the 40-yard line up, and sitting right out just a little ways from the outside, Bun Graves, who was one of the most radical people in Louisville, was sitting at a card table with a clock. And Tom parked that chair down on the side Graves, and he said, "Now, Chuck, you sit there and you watch that son of a bitch. Especially if the score's close at the end of the game." I walked off, and I was the guardian. And Bud and I were just like that anyhow, so I didn't have to talk to him. And we won that game over there. And I remember Mr. Angeline talking to a few of the Louisville people afterwards. And he said it like it was. He said, "We've been eating your crap for a long time now. You eat ours tonight." And that's the way it was. And they got all the way through everybody. You wanted to beat Louisville. All right. And they comes along and they want to start a central school, want to start a new school. I get a phone call from Betty Buffalo, who just knew vaguely. They were great supporters of Louisville. We're going to have a meeting for the two towns. It changed exactly the opposite direction. We were two different people, but we were all fighting for the same thing. We wanted to save our schools. And we had a meeting up at the new grade school. And the place was full, about half and half. You wouldn't believe it. Half of our Louisville, half Lafayette, and all hollering for the same thing. We didn't want to lose our high schools. Because I think everybody enjoyed it. I never knew a person in Louisville that I didn't like. I sure like to beat them and playing ball. But I've seen them at a basketball game. Boy, they just get up and shake their fists and holler and scream and holler and stuff like that. In fact, one night, everybody had a homecoming. And one night, when Louisville had all their wood piled up bigger than heck for a fire the next evening in a celebration, some kids from Lafayette went over and burned the darn thing down. I'm not crying.
Do you know who those kids were?
Sure.
You?
Sure, I know her very well.
You and Harry.
Yeah, she's a grandmother now, I think, and maybe not, but. And in retaliation, the Louisville guys come on, burned down our, what do we call it, the doghouse or some damn thing, and an announcing booth we put up. And that's how it ended. But it was surprising how well they got along after they went to the same school.
And the name of that school is?
Centaurus.
Centaurus.
Right.
They almost named it Mary Miller.
Oh, they did?
Yeah,
Almost.
there was quite a push to get.
But that would have made it more Lafayette than Louisville.
Yeah.
Good story.
And none of us ever knew what centaurs meant anyhow.
Good
Is that
story.
8-man football?
No. 11 man.
11-man.
Yeah. I've never seen an 8-man game in my life.
Oh,
I had no idea how they played.
okay.
Talking about a couple of activities, such as the bonfire activities, did either of you ever do any outhouse tipping?
Do any what?
Outhouse tipping.
Oh,
You act
I've
like you don't know what that is.
Wasn't Mr. Clare
I've been known to tip a few outhouses.
Mr. Clare was sitting in his when we tipped it.
Only on Halloween though.
Yeah.
And-
It wasn't just outhouses. They moved.
It wasn't just outhouses. It was waxing windows on
Oh.
cars and
But
houses,
the highway drugstore, they put an outhouse up on that step right as you go in. I don't know how the hell they done it.
And we'd take gates off of fences that weren't tied down and drop them on the porch. Just kid things during Halloween.
We were going down an alley one night, I know, and some guy down there, I don't know what street it was, or alley it was, fired a shotgun in the air and then threw a handful of gravel at us as we went by. Scared the living heck out.
I bet. What's this story about crack the whip, Dean? Something, a game or what is
Well, it was, you played it, you did that when you were ice skating. We used to go to the lakes. Once the ice got thick enough to skate on, well, we go out there and sometimes plow the snow off in an area big enough that we could have hockey games and whatever, and then trails and whatever. So we skated on the Plant Lake, which is now called the Waneka Reservoir, and out at the Prince Lakes, which is out at the Y where you turn west to go to Boulder. And what you would do, you would form like everybody would hang on to the person next to them, and then one guy would stop, and that'd swing the whole group around and play snap the whip. And whoever was on the end, boy, they got thrown a long ways. And they had to either be a good skater or they scooted on their bottom.
And is that somebody's? I think Becky thought that maybe Harry met his future wife cracking the whip.
He may have, because we were always skating, and I frankly don't remember how he met her. But I know once he met her, that was it. He fell for her, and they went to school they went together in high school and then in college.
But didn't they use cars? Sometimes they tie ropes on bumpers of cars and then skate behind.
Yeah.
I remember the dad
Well,
telling that
we
story.
used to do that on skis a lot.
Yeah.
On roads that was going east and west, and usually if there was any drifts at all, it would be north wind, and it would make the snow next to the road along the borrow ditch lumpy, It would be, and it was a lot of fun. We skied that way. I don't remember ever doing it on ice, but we sure did. I remember going on the Van Lake one time in Joe Distel's car, and I don't know whether it was on purpose or not. I think he just going down that hill and couldn't stop it. We drove out on the ice quite a ways, and ice was thick enough it didn't give us any problem. But we thought it was a lot of fun then.
Now, I wondered if you folks did hunting and if people own guns. Was it common to have guns in the home or kids with guns? Could you talk about that a little bit?
Well, I had a .22 when I was 11 or 12, and Harry always had shotguns. Harry used to go hunting magpies.
Yeah.
They'd have magpie shoots.
10th of June.
Everybody took their shotgun, went out, they got around a big tree that was just loaded with magpies. They turned lights on, and so the birds were attracted to the tree, and then everybody shot into the tree and killed thousands of magpies. They were a nuisance.
Really?
We didn't have crows. There was a game warden, but you could call crows. Only that we'd drive out in the country someplace where there was some trees close. Everybody shut their lights off, get out of their cars and get in line. Load your gun. Every gun had to be loaded. Carry it barrel up. Right, single file and don't say a word. And they'd line you up next to a couple of trees. And then he'd walk down the line and say, "You ready?" And you just whisper and touch you on the phone. You face that tree. And when he got to the end of the line, he hollered, "Pull!" And everybody shot into the tree, and then you take your flashlight, lay your gun down. Go take your flashlight and go pick up crows. That was crow hunting.
Did you eat these crows?
No.
Just ate them?
The game warden, Crawford, used to take some of them to some people in Boulder, and he claimed that they ate them.
Eat a crow?
Yeah, but we'd have a pile of crows, real deep.
Now, did you ever go on rabbit hunts around here?
I'd like to tell you that Ralph Miller and Gus Waneka took my brother and I hunting when I was about a sophomore in high school. And one more time, but that started us going east to hunt rabbits. Eastern Colorado had an overrun of rabbits. They used to have rabbit drives out there where hundreds of guys would show up. They'd take a square, maybe it was a half section or so, walk into the center of that section, carrying a rifle, their shotgun. And when they got to the point where the rabbits they had scared into that section were running out from the film, whoever was running the show would shoot a ship again, and everybody could shoot, and they just keep backing in and shooting. And they used to get a lot of jackrabbits that way. There were a lot of them out there.
But you'd shoot towards the outside?
Yeah.
You wouldn't shoot towards each other?
Yeah.
Now, what did you do with all those jackrabbits?
They used to pick them all up, and there was a market for rabbit hides, and whether they done it, I never was in one of those hunts. I was in crow hunts. But Ralph and Uncle Gus took my brother and I out in eastern Colorado, one time to Orchard and one time north of Keensburg. In the wintertime, on Ralph's truck, a flatbed truck, colder than a bat's butt, and we shot rabbits. And you won't believe this, but we brought home over 100 jackrabbits. And we took them into town and dumped them on the sidewalk in front of the leader office up here in town. This was in a 33 or 4. And the next year we done it one more time with probably the same amount of rabbits. And the people told us afterwards in 2 hours all those rabbits were gone.
And jackrabbits are good to eat.
Yeah, well, they were during the Depression. Let's put it that way.
Now, do you remember anything about a shootout involving guns at the grocery store?
Yeah.
Could you tell that story?
One guy shot the other guy.
Well, embroider on that now, Chuck.
Yeah. It was a triangle somewhere or another over a lady, and one was a husband and one was the other. I don't know just who was the guy that done the shooting, and maybe the guy that got shot wasn't very well known. We didn't know him. I think they were from Louisville, but this one fellow was in there getting some groceries, and the guy walked in and said something into the effect that "I've got you now," and he pulled his gun. The fellow that was already in the store shot him. It was in the afternoon, the school was out, we all went down and looked at the hole through the linoleum. It had a rack with different kinds of linoleum on it. 45 bullet would tear that big a hole in a piece of linoleum. But just 2 shots, I guess, were exchanged, and one guy lost.
Oh my, do you know
But
which one
I
it
don't
was?
I don't really remember who they were or where they were from. I didn't, and most of the people didn't know.
About what year was that, do you think? The 40s?
Oh no, no.
Late 30s?
35, 6, 7, along
I
in
see.
there.
I was going to ask you again, Dean, about the mail. You had mail carriers in your family and how the mail got from Erie into town. Would you talk about that?
The mail came to Louisville, and my Uncle Ralph contracted, because he had a truck, and he contracted for the Star Route. So he would go to Louisville and pick the mail up off the train, and he would deliver the mail sacks to Lafayette. And once the mail sacks in Lafayette were, then he would drive on over to Erie and take the mail over there. My dad was the rural mail carrier out of Lafayette. And then in 1935, and they were paid by the mile. And the Lafayette route, as I remember, was about 32 miles long. But then he got the route in Erie, because it was a longer route, and it was 45 or 50 miles, 52 miles. And so he was paid by the miles. And when he worked out of Erie, well, my mother sometimes carried the mail in his absence. She knew the system. She knew both the postmasters. And so when he needed a substitute, why, she would substitute. It was double dipping in today's language. But then when we wanted to go on a family vacation, then he had another substitute that he would use to carry the mail while he was gone.
Do you remember the year and about how much he was paid to do that per mile, by chance?
No, I really don't. It seemed to me that he was getting something like 5 cents a mile for carrying the mail, but I really don't. I really don't know for sure.
And he paid his own gas.
Oh yeah, he had the expense of the car, and because he was using the car 6 days a week, and then we normally went someplace on Sundays. We had new cars about every 18 months.
He
had
more new.
He had more Ford Motor cars than most people can even imagine.
Well, and he had his own gas pump in the.
Well,
That's
yeah. When I was once I got my job at Public Service, then we bought a 500-gallon tank and a pump, which Chuck's got out here, and we'd buy our gas in 500-gallon quantities, and it was cheaper that way.
And it probably was 15 cents a gallon or
Oh, yeah,
if that.
15 or 20 cents.
I see.
And now it's, when you have it delivered, it's more money.
Quite a bit.
Yeah.
On the break, we were talking about Ralph Miller and what he did when he knew that his time on Earth was over. And would you, Chuck, would you tell a little bit about towards the end of Ralph Miller?
When Ralph quit hauling the mail, there was a period there he didn't do anything for a little while. He lost his wife and remarried, and then he went to work for Gates Rubber Company. And then his legs went bad. I can remember Ralph going into the post office and walking with two canes and just kind of hobbling. He went in a nursing home, and Lois and I go see him. The last time we saw Ralph, we went in the room. He had a roommate, and he was sitting in a wheelchair, and he was up and sitting in a chair. And he was crying because he wanted to go back to bed. And we called the nurse, and the nurse said, "Well, we'll put him back to bed. He cries to get up." And he was that bad off. But there was an amusing thing there. His roommate must have been 6'4", and of course real elderly and thin. And he got out of bed and he had on a pair of shorts and a t-shirt. And he took one sock and stood on one foot and raised that knee up underneath his chin, and he put that sock up. Never teetered, never. And then he spent a lot of time pressing that sock up his leg. Never teetered a bit, and he done it with the other leg. The poor little Ralph was sitting there crying because he wanted to go to bed. And the other guy never even acted like he knew there was anybody else in the room. That's the kind of quality of life that he had. But he sure didn't get a very great shake when he did it.
What about his funeral?
I don't remember much about it, only being at the cemetery. I don't even know who that is. I must have been pallbearers. There was 50, 60 people, but I never remember.
Mm-hmm. And before he got ill, didn't he take you and Lois out to dinner or something?
No, Ralph never did.
Oh.
See, when they lost the farm, Ralph moved up on Emma Street, 2 blocks. Yeah, 2 or 3 blocks, and that was the end of Emma Street at the time. And his
East Emma?
West Emma.
West Emma.
West Emma. And right where Bob Lee's house is, if you don't know Bob Lee, you're in trouble. But that's where his barn was. And for 2 years, in the summertime, they pastured their cattle down here in our pasture, east. And I would drive his cattle out the south end of our pasture and up Emma Street in the evening and in the summertime, and go get them the next morning and take them to pasture. And they got to keep all their machinery. And if the house that they were living in was the only house in that block, and it's still there, only it's been gone over. It's got a brick siding on it now. It was wood, and they had a little room in a building in the back where he'd take the milk from these cows and bottle it and deliver it around town. And I helped him deliver milk a time or two. And he was getting a nickel a quart, and if you were a steady customer, you got 21 quarts for $1. Now you figure, that's how. When I started school as a freshman, I took off of school one day and went to his sale there, right there. The farm had a farm sale right there. And I bought the best milk cow he had, because hell, I knew his cows. He milked them all. And, heroin, I don't know, 2 or 3 different things. When we were starting for my brother and I. But they had an old family heirloom of a horse, a driving horse, black, and I think her name was Coley. And I rode her, taking these cows up and down the road. And I'd leave the cows up there and then come home, and next morning I'd have to drive it. But I just jig-jagged back through town coming home. And one night I was right in front of Ferris's house, and Coley kind of stumbled a little bit, and Mr. Ferris was sitting on the porch, and he hollered out, "Chuck, you got a sick horse." And about that time I stepped off, and the horse threw her head up in the air and done a somersault and was dead. And everybody kidded me afterwards, because I was very old. I was in the 5th grade, I think. I said, if I could have just kept her walking, she'd have never died. Now that's thinking, you know. But they used to kid me about what I said about the Coley diet. But they also had a little brown mare that was really a nice horse, and I got to ride that afterwards and rode her for several years.
I'd like to ask both of you the question about, you both are members of very well-known families in Lafayette. Did either one of you receive any special treatment for being Millers or Wanekas? Do you want to answer that first, Dean?
No, we were just another family in town. We entered into all of the activities at school, lodges and whatever, and no, there was never any special treatment
No, we never.
because our last name was Miller.
How about you, Chuck?
That started after, many years after, about the time they started developing a lot of stuff. See, I started farming at Miller Place in 1968, and through most of the 70s, I don't know when I quit. It wasn't very long. But up until that time, they didn't name every damn thing they wanted to Waneka. And we weren't any different than anybody else. Now I run into people and if I know them and they, oh, we get to walk around your lake. And I say, anytime, just help yourself.
Well, why do you think they named it Waneka Lake?
They claimed that there was a filling right in Adolph's name. See, Adolph built it. My great-granddad. Why, I don't know, because he couldn't irrigate out of it. It was the Millers and Harmons. And the only Waneka that got in on when Gus bought his farm from he bought it from the Harmons, not the Millers. Clancy had it in the paper that they bought the farm from the Millers, but they didn't. It was Harmons. But he didn't have. Well, he had water rights, and he bought this place down here in '83, in the quarter that we still got across the road. But and he had water, but that all came through the Morrison Lateral branch. He never had any water in that lake.
Water rights were sacred. Water rights still are sacred.
Yeah, you just can't. If the city wants it, you don't have anything. We lost our pump, because of that. Pumped it 50 years.
Dean, I'd like to ask you about family traditions that you all might have had, like around the holidays, whether there's special food or special things that you folks did.
Well, let me say this. We ate well. And whenever there was a holiday, we had family dinners. And usually at Thanksgiving, we would include Ralph and his family, my cousins from Denver and their family, my mother's sister and her husband. And so our family dinners, when the first day that I took Mary Lou to our house was Thanksgiving, and there were 22 people there.
Mary,
But
your wife.
Yeah, Mary Lou was my wife. And we always had big family dinners. Easter, Thanksgiving. Oh, yeah, and when Easter came along, my dad and Chuck and the rest of them were usually involved in coloring the Easter eggs and hiding them up around the school. And then the kids in the community go out and hunt the Easter eggs. So yeah, we celebrated all of the holidays.
How about 4th of July in Lafayette?
We shot off an awful lot of firecrackers, and we go to the firecracker stand, and I don't know, for $10 we'd have 2 big grocery bags full of fireworks. But then later on, when Harry was still in high school, and he and I got into using carbide in a syrup can. If you dumped a little bit of carbide in there and you poked a hole in the top and the back of the syrup can, you threw the carbide in there, then you put the lid on. And then you would take a oil can full of water, you squirt water in there, and that would generate just enough gas, and then you'd light that. Okay, well, it'd blow the lid,
Get the lid and put it back on.
maybe as far as from here to Becky, but so that wasn't good enough. That wasn't good enough for Harry and I. So we obviously had an old 10-gallon milk can in the garage, and we decided one day, well, let's do something different. So We set it in the middle of the alley, and we threw a nickel's worth of carbide, which was a pretty good gob of carbide. We threw that in, and we jammed the lid on, and we thought, well, hadn't better light that with a match. We better put the candle on the end of a stick. So we did that, but before we did that, we drove pipes in the ground and wrapped wire back over it. And when we lit that there was a boom. The people in the west end of town thought somebody was blasting. And it tore those pipes out of the ground. If that lid had stuck, it would have blown shrapnel and killed us deader than doornails.
What did your mama say about all this?
She was a little upset.
Did you get a whipping?
Oh, I hadn't. When I was a kid, I learned to swear at a very early age.
So,
And there was a poor old lady that lived across the alley. She'd lost her husband. Her name was Mrs. Hurd. And I was about 5 or 6. And when I'd see her going to the grocery store, I'd run down at the end of the alley, and I'd call that poor woman every name in the book. And then I'd go in for the next 15 minutes and swallow Fell's Naphtha soap, because I had my mouth washed out with Fell's Naphtha soap more than any kid in town.
And you got nice, white, clean teeth to prove it today.
Very nice, fine teeth.
And I'm also noticing you have all of your fingers, too.
Oh yeah, but it's a wonder. It's a wonder, because we did some pretty dangerous things.
But it was common. This is what kids
Yeah,
got into.
yeah.
Just,
Kids today don't have childhoods.
they can't play with dynamite.
They can't play. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, we did.
big sissies.
We did.
Well, what did you do on Lafayette days?
They didn't have it.
You didn't have it. When did that start?
I think it started something
52.
after I was married and gone.
Okay.
I'll tell you how it started if you're interested.
Yes, I am.
There was a guy who moved to town by the name of Glenn Onspaw. He was a jeweler. Greg Onspaw's dad.
Still in town.
And still in town. And his first store was down on Simpson Street, about 2 doors west of Vermont store. Then he moved up in the Romano shoe store. And he showed up at our Lions Club one time. And he said he had an idea to have a celebration for Lafayette. And he needed 3 guys from the Lions, 3 from the fire department, 3 from the VFW, and 3 from the Chamber of Commerce. That's what he was looking for, 12 men. He says, I think we can have a good... We had a meeting down at the public service office. Les Jones was the head of public service, and Clancy and I were the other 2 pointers from the Lions Club, and I forgot who was on it. But Glenn outlined what he'd like to do, and he, I don't know whether he had any experience in putting on parades or celebrations, but he had everything in mind that passed the word around town, and it took off like a firecracker. Boy, everybody was in favor of it. We had a parade, kids parade on Friday. We put up booths out in the park where the rec center is. Anybody that wanted to put up a booth could put up a booth. The city had absolutely nothing to do with it. We didn't even consider them as anything about it. And then on Saturday we had another parade, a real good parade. And we had all these booths for both nights, and then Sunday we tried to have a program on it. It was part of the old swimming pool there, and had a concrete wall and a concrete top we used for a stage, and we done a lot of things out of that. And you would be surprised how the people in Lafayette got into that. Everybody had an idea. somebody, I think it was a fireman, built a one-room jail on a set of running gears, and and we sold beard permits and shaving permits. Anybody that should have a card, for $1 you could get a shaving permit, or you could get a beard permit. We had a beard contest. We had a raffle. The VFW had bingo. Our Lions Club had a roulette wheel, and
Pies,
JD had,
a lot of pies, all the mothers took pies.
yeah. And JD had the Cub Scouts. It was I think throwing darts and balloons, and the Boy Scouts had the blacksmith rigged up a ball thrown for a hole in the wall, and if it would trip a seat on a tank of water and drop them, and everything went good. We made our money by selling bird permits, and then we had a raffle. I got the job as beard chairman, I think, or shaving at one time, but I got a job as running a raffle. And about that time, a district attorney in Denver decided he was going to eliminate all gambling. What they were wanting to do is eliminate the gambling until you got a license, and then it was legal. And they got a lot of publicity, and it kind of grew. The publicity did. I was working in the field one day, and 4 guys came down that were also on the committee of some kind. Wanted to know what the heck we're going to do, because we'd bought the prizes and printed the tickets, and even distributed the tickets and sold a lot of them. And the 5 of us decided that we were going to tough it out and see if we were going to go to jail or just get by with it. And we got by with it. The night of the raffle, Edna Schofield about what else, but there was some newspapers there, but no police. One year they done something. Vernon Berry done something wrong, either in his beard or non-beard or something, and they hung him on a crossarm there at the park. They had a rig up where they put a regular hangman knot on him, but they had a hook on it, and he was in a harness and a ring in the back. And they actually, boy, he did a good job. He could have saw it. But anyhow, the night of the raffle, I got a cute little girl, and they're about that big. And we had a big drum with all the tickets in. And she picked out the tickets, and we went. But that little girl was none of it. I tested. She was about 4 or 5 years old. So that's how long ago it's been.
What was her name again?
I tested now.
Yeah, Betty Summers' daughter.
Oh, Betty Summers' daughter.
Yeah.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah. It's been that long.
Oh, my.
And we done that for a lot of years. There'd be a gang up there for 4, 5, 6 nights before, putting up the booze and stuff. And didn't take that long to shut everything down, but it was amazing that we could do that. And we always had a chairman. Every year we'd get together and elect somebody.
Would you say that was the biggest celebration in town then, was Lafayette Days?
Yeah, it was for a few years. I mean, we didn't have things like peach festivals and stuff like that.
So from 52 until about how long do you think it was a very big celebration in town? Maybe 10 years or?
I think it was at least 10 years.
Okay.
Well, let's see. Ham Roberts was running a grocery store, and our kids entered some steers in forage contest in Longland, and he bought them, and he put them in a pen and showed them off during Lafayette days.
Yeah.
But it lasted quite a while, and then the first year the city took over, the sheriff policeman in town was Mike Anderson, an old cow guy that kind of retired, and we met with him up at the park, and he had asked some of us what booth was here last year, and he'd tell him, he said, well, okay, put it back. That's how he decided what was to go where. City didn't have any authority anyhow, but.
Well, we've got about 15 minutes left, and I want to go back a little bit, Ralph, and ask you some questions about the miners, or I think, Chuck, you also added some information about wages, and I wondered if there were company stores in Lafayette.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Big company store. Rocky Mountain Fuel Company.
So that's where you got your pay in script and you had to buy at the company store?
You got your pay there at one time, I know, because I went there with my Uncle Joe.
About what year was this now?
That would be around 1928 or 9. I wasn't very big, but we went to the back of the store where everybody paid their bill anyhow, and they paid in cash. It had to be maybe 27 because I think it was gold coins. I remember I was really impressed. I'd never seen money like that. They'd pile up, and the guys were lining up to get their name scratched off.
See, the people that shop there, though, the townspeople could shop there, but it was mainly for the miners that were being paid by Rocky Mountain Fuel Company. But they had a huge store, and they had everything under the sun in there, and so you could shop there if you wanted to, or and then that was when, about the time Ham Roberts came in, the company store was beginning to dwindle, and there were a couple other grocery stores that were doing pretty good.
But people were paying in cash. They weren't paying in script at the company store.
So far as I know,
and you didn't have to. I think if you needed the money and could charge it or something like that, you could. But you didn't have to buy it at the company store.
That was, I guess, the point.
Yeah.
And then did they give credit to the miners during the summer months?
Everybody had an account.
Credit. And a lot of the stores in town did the same besides the grocery stores?
Everybody had credit for their customers.
Alderson's, when the Depression hit, Mom worked there, started in 34. But a lot of people walked off and left Alderson's hole in the bag.
Oh, really? Oh, didn't pay their tab.
Yeah. Actually, this old house down here on the farm, my great granddad, we would call it the square house. It was built like one of them, and it was empty. It was just storage. And the Millers stored some stuff in there when they had to leave the ranch. That old phonograph with the copper disc plate with all the holes in it, played like a Flair piano, system. It was out there, and I could crawl through the window and play that thing.
And this was where you were born?
No, it was across the road back there where that red silo is.
I see.
I remember playing that. It was in the living room of the Miller Ranch.
Where is it now?
I have no idea, but it'd be worth real money now.
Yeah. Do you recall west of Public Road being called East Louisville, or was that really in the old days? Do you have any knowledge about that?
No. You do know that there was no liquor sold east of the highway.
Tell that story.
Well,
we
that
don't
was
know whether Mary Miller ever owned any ground over there. We don't know who owned the ground, but she had to. She platted it and
she put that in the deeds.
Made the rules for living there like they did. That started like.
But that was east of public.
Well,
West.
no liquor could be sold east of the highway. That was what we called the public road, and she had it written into all of the deeds. And see, because there was very little development west of the highway in those early days.
Did you ever hear that called East Louisville?
No,
Okay.
I never.
never,
You didn't either?
never.
Okay. Now,
That'd have been a slap in the face.
I thought, but I heard that and I wondered.
No.
Now, when was that liquor, no liquor, you couldn't even have wine in your house, could you? And what would happen if you broke that rule?
Well, during the Depression, and when they everybody was bootlegging, and my dad always told about, I can't remember, I think their name was Slavic. They lived down on the street south of Cleveland.
Would that be Vic Slavic?
Huh?
No.
No.
No, I can't remember what the name of the street
What
was.
was it?
Anyway, they lived on the corner of the public road and just south of
That other guy.
well, whatever the name of the street was.
Kind of by the post
But-
office down in there.
When they came, they decided that they'd crack down on the bootleggers, and she kept a pot under the bed that was perfectly clean. So when they knew that they were going to be checked on by the bootleg commission, she poured all of the booze into the pot. And they came in and wanted to know if they had any booze, and she said no. And so they pulled this pot out, and it smelled like booze, and they said, that smells like booze. She said, you think so? Taste it. Try tasting it. Well, nobody had guts enough to try tasting it. So they couldn't arrest her.
That's good.
Ben Chip down there was a bootlegger, and Mr. Standish, a lot of people made it. But
Did you ever, Chuck?
no,
Okay.
I never, even when I was a young man, I never drank enough to,
At least not out of the chamber pot.
no, I never drank out of that either.
When the family lost the farm, would you talk about that a little bit, Dean, during the Depression? Could you tell us stories about that?
Well, I was very young, and I remember that my grandfather was having a tough time managing the farm, and he was taking on more financially than he had means to handle it, and I've lost my train of thought.
Did he lose the farm in the Depression?
Apparently he did, but it was neither here nor there, because my dad was out of the farming game by that time, and
Your grandfather was too.
yeah,
Yeah,
and my grandfather was gone, so.
He's down 28.
Mm-hmm. How many more minutes do we have? Okay. Would you like to talk about your children, who your children are, and who your wife, when you got married a little bit? We have about 7 minutes left.
Well, my wife was, her maiden name was Mary Louise Pinger, and I met her in Alamosa. She was a home economist, the best one that Public Service Company ever had, and they would send her into the divisions to do food demonstrations, because in those days our motto was more power to you. So she was promoting the use of appliances, and it didn't make any difference to her whether she was cooking on gas ranges or electric ranges, whatever. So She was in Alamosa doing an appliance promotion, and there was an old guy in our company, in public service company, that had had his hand burned off in a 4,000 volt bus, and he had an artificial hand, and they kept him in the electric shop while he developed this entertaining electric show. And they would take engineers out of the engineering department, assign them to the electric show, and we'd travel with the electric show and do electric shows as an entertaining thing for the company customers in that area. And this happened to be when Alamos put in their mercury vapor lamps. So Mary Lou was down there doing a program, and I had paid a little attention to her, not much, but I was sitting in the audience one day watching her do her thing. She was very, very adept at it. And this guy said to me, "It's a wonder that good-looking gal like that can cook like that is not married." I said, "Who's this guy she's running around with?" He said, "Oh, he's an engineer, got his own family. He's just assigned to make sure she gets where she needs to go." So I started paying attention to her. And I was taking a trip to go back to Wisconsin and pick up another girl. And the whole time I was gone on that trip, I was sending Mary Lou cards. And the minute I got back to Denver with this other girl, I had a date with Mary Lou. And so my next date with the other gal, I just went in and I said, "In about 3 minutes, I'm going to walk out the door and you won't see any more of me. I'm out of here." And Mary Lou and I, after that, it's history. She had her own TV show. She was on, I can't remember, Channel 7 or whatever it was, for about a year. But and she did some freelancing with Monarch Range and some of these other things.
Do you know about what year that was?
What?
What year she was on TV?
She was on TV in 1955. She also had a 50-second commercial that she did for Dottie's Quickie Cookies. Paid her $75 a throw. We thought we'd died and gone to heaven. She was a beautiful woman, and we had 54 and a half years together.
That's great. In these last closing minutes, I'd like to ask you, what advice, both of you, would you give your grandchildren? You could do that in a sentence or two, and just so something they could remember. What would you tell them?
Well, first of all, I want to give them love. I want them to know that I love them and that I care for them. Second thing, there's a real heritage that we have connected with Lafayette and the history that's here, and I would like to pass some of that on to them. But they've got their own careers now, and I understand that. But someplace in their background, they may remember some of the things that have gone on.
Chuck, could you put something like that into a sentence?
Oh.
Or a short paragraph? But we're running out of time, so you got to...
If I stall long enough, I'll ditch it, won't I?
We're running... There's the bell.
That's
Cuckoo
it.
clock.
I've never got given a lot of advice, but I've been awful lucky in my life that people don't need it, that I've been around. And I've got a little great-granddaughter and a great-grandson. If I give them advice, I just say, slow down a little bit, you're running all the time.
Right.
Because they're cute as a bug's ear, and they're going to... I feel sorry for them, and to be living in this age. I think I think we've had the best part of living.
I agree. We had the best years.
Yeah.
Well, I would like to thank you both for a very fabulous interview, and it's our pleasure to be here with you today. Thank you both.
No, we've appreciated it.
Appreciate it.